This is the Harmonic Motion Podcast, a place where you, dear listener, can join with automotive aftermarket professionals as they delve into and discuss the matters which matter.
Hey Mick, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Thanks very much for agreeing to appear on this episode of the Harmonic Motion Podcast. Really keen to have a chat with you about your life and endeavours and adventures and where you are today. And I think you've got a really good story. And I'm really happy that you're keen to share it with our audience, because I'm sure that they've got some things that they could learn from your journey so far, and it is probably so far. That's probably a good thing to say. So thanks very much. We're going to start with, really, if you wouldn't mind giving me a sort of summary or a description of where you got to today in your business, or your journey, how you set off and where you've got to.
Initially left school with qualifications. Dad never wanted me to come into the industry. He'd started, he was working for himself on his own. So I journeyed off to have a career in banking. After 3 or 4 years, it was never going to be for me. I didn't convince my dad to let me come and join the motor trade with him. I left the job in London, and after a few weeks of garden leave, he decided that he would let me come and join the business. From that point onwards, really, we worked together very closely. In lots of ways, had some frustrations that you would normally have working with your dad as you're in your early 20s. But really, I knew it was for me moving forward, and it all been my ambition really to continue his good work in the future, for the future.
Good stuff. And at that stage, then, Mick, what did Dad's garage look like? What was the sort of shape, form, and function of?
Yeah. So it initially, we were one ramp. I think when I joined, he'd just started to do MOT testing. He was a Fiat technician originally and had worked at Mercedes. But had all of the struggles that I never really had, which was finding the premises, getting the business up and running. He created a great reputation for honesty. He would do anything for anybody, too much so, really. But really gave me a great foundation and a great ethos into being honest with people and only doing what's necessary.
Yeah, no, good stuff. So he was definitely sort of a people person then, and that was one of the advantages that he had maybe over the other garages in the area. He had a good relationship with his customers.
Yeah, he really was a people person. Yeah, could speak to anybody, and some of his customers now are my customers.
Oh, fantastic.
Fortunately, he still comes in to see how things are going. Really just continued that around that, with that foundation, really, about caring for customers and believing in what you do.
Yeah, good stuff. That sounds brilliant. And so what happened then? So you joined the garage at that stage of its life, and you worked together for how long were you guys then working together, and what was the sort of direction that it went in?
Yeah, so we had Adam, who was an apprentice that had joined, I think about a year before I joined with my dad. And we had another apprentice there. So we became 3, I would say, apprentices with one mentor. Adam is still with the business. He's the manager at one of our branches. So we worked together for about sort of 10 to 15 years, in which we created an opportunity to move from those premises to one of our current premises now, which was a real stretch.
Yeah,
real stretch.
And did you outgrow the original site? Was that the mission, or was it not? Sort of, what was the reason for?
Without doubt, outgrew the original site. Moving to our current site at the Hive at Hawkins Road in Colchester, it created a better image, better parking, a better reception area. We came out of what would be best described as a single unit with a self-made office in the corner beside the shutter doors to somewhere that people could come and sit down and be comfortable. So we could really push the image.
Yeah. No, nice. So that was more about the facilities of the customer. So did the workshop scale at the same time? So you'd got the bolt-on for the customer experience and the parking, and the workshop then was bigger as well.
Yeah, naturally the workshop extended in size. At the time then, we were also doing body repair.
Right.
We don't now. And it just gave us the facility really for the business to grow into. And it was a great commercial opportunity as well, to be honest.
Okay.
And at the time it was, I wouldn't want to be in that position again. But yeah, so we had to, the unit that we acquired, we had to divide that up to make it work and rent some of it out.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was a business decision that really was a one-off opportunity, and we went for it together.
Good stuff. A bit of brave action then, building for the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It caused much. It obviously caused some level of thinking about the risks and rewards. But were there many challenges? Was there a disagreement between how that would happen, or was it such a good opportunity that you were sort of all in it, but maybe concerned about?
I think there were massive sacrifices. You had two choices really. You bought the car, you bought the house, or you bought the business. You bought somewhere for the business to operate.
Yeah.
So big sacrifices there from both of us.
Yeah.
But yes, it made commercial sense, but we had to make sacrifices.
Yeah. And those decisions are quite difficult, aren't they? Where it's the right thing, and you then, I think anyone running a business probably has that relationship within their own family unit of wives and partners, however that's shaped, bringing them along with it, because although maybe they're not directly involved, it has a huge impact. And I guess that's one of those people I think that are married to people in business have a much different maybe perspective on those risks and rewards, and it can maybe cause some friction sometimes. I know particularly in my own case, when we're looking to maybe think about expansion, it can also it can maybe cause that challenges about, is it not big enough? Is it not good enough? Is it not? Are we not there yet? Can we not have the swimming pool put on the back of the house or the new car? Do we need to spend that money on the business? So I can imagine, those conversations sometimes bringing the partners along with that big decision. Yeah, at that stage, not having the future scope, it is a huge risk and can cause pressure, on relationships, can't it? But yeah, delightful that it's worked out for you. Yeah, brilliant. So that took you to that's where you are now. So you're still operating from those premises today?
Yes. So we've expanded within that premise, on one premise, on that premises. So we've doubled the workshop side. As I said, we used to do body work, which we stopped doing 7 or 8 years ago now, maybe a little slightly longer. So we've got those premises there. And we've also got another site in Colchester now. It was an existing garage with a bad reputation.
Right.
Again, it was the right place on the map.
Okay.
Because we had a lot of customers that were coming from that surrounding area, and it was a bit of a chore because location is quite a big decision for customers when they're choosing a garage. So I think that was probably 8 years ago that we sort of expanded and opened a second branch, which has proved really, really successful.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, good stuff. Was that in the same order of magnitude as change number one? So when you've got change number one, you've expanded that garage, and now an opportunity for another site comes up. Were the thought processes similar? So was the risk level the same, or was it slightly different now in the profile of where you are in your business life?
I think the most difficult decision is you've just shaken off all of that load and that pressure.
Yes.
So when you're just bolting on you're just picking up another rucksack to
carry. Yes.
But again, it was it felt like the right thing to do. Yeah. Certainly the demand for our services was there. I felt, that it was there. It was an existing business. We had to change the customer clientele that were going there a little bit. So that was a bit rocky. But yes, we just, a lot easier than the first one.
Yeah.
because we had the experience of the first one.
You had the learnings, the learnings and the scars from the first time round. No, that's really good. Interesting couple of things that you raised there. If we can maybe discuss your business in the body shop arena. So you were mechanical repair and body repair in the same premises. What were the key differences, or what made you prefer, if you like, to focus the business on mechanical repair, service maintenance, and move out of the body shop world?
With body shop, you have to do volume, and to be honest with you, you're always being pushed for price by insurance companies. They make it more and more difficult. And I really needed I had to make an evaluation on profits we were making in body repairs per square foot of unit space that we needed to do mechanical repairs. And to be honest with you, I was never really involved too much in the body side of things, other than maybe a bit of strip and obviously some electrical faults and stuff. So it really was a decision that was being forced because of the mechanical demand.
Right.
And so, yes, it just didn't seem like it was where we wanted to go as a business and continue to do those sort of repairs.
Yeah, great stuff. So I think it's really interesting with I've got a history of body shop, as I used to work for, back in the day, they were called ICI Autocolor. So I know a little bit about body shop businesses. And I think one of the very unique parts of that business is that you have a relationship with the car owner, but your ultimate customer is generally the insurance company or accident management company. And their objective about the repair is different than the car owner's perspective of the repair. And I think that, for me, when I was looking at those businesses, always seemed to be a big conflict. The insurance companies wanting it done the most economical way, whereas the car owner wants it done the best way. And that always seemed to me as a big area for friction and disappointment, and maybe, having bad reports from your end customer because of the influence your insurance companies maybe put on you to get the repair done. So interesting. Yeah. And of course, very interestingly, they dictate the market a little bit.
Absolutely.
What they're paying.
Absolutely. And I think there's a similar struggle now that garages have with warranty work.
Yes.
Where the customer wants the car and they want it right, and the warranty company want to maybe throw a cheap alternative part at the garage, because that's what we're going to pay for. Got to be really careful on those ones.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a common issue that comes up when you talk to garages then, and the one that makes me laugh out loud is the fact that the warranty companies won't pay for diagnostic time. In their interaction with their customer, it's not covered, the diag time. And as you know yourself, very often with a complex repair that's gone wrong, the bulk of the labour sale or the value in the repair is in the diag. It's not in the repair. You could find a broken wire that takes 10 minutes, but it could have taken you 4 or 5 hours to find where the broken wire is. And I think that's very interesting. Who controls the repair and who is your ultimate customer? And again, bring your customer. Does your customer have the same values that you have? And if not, there's generally going to be a level of friction. And I think a lot of garages find that when they're dealing with warranty companies, that their interest is different than the garages. Yeah, it's a really interesting. So yeah, again, interesting to hear that the analysis based on the return on investment of square foot invested. What would you say, you just sort of glancing over the top, in terms of the resources or investment required in that business type, so the body shop business compared to mechanical repair, if we said, square footage aside, because they're sort of the same, what would you think about skills comparatively of the workforce and maybe resources required to do the job? Are they pretty comparative, would you say? Or is there a big difference between what it costs to own, run and set up a body shop versus, because you've got a really unique perspective here of having done both?
Yeah. The skill set is for body repair and good panel beaters. And yes, that's a skill set in itself. However, it's a trade that's learned and it evolves a lot slower.
Yes.
So cars have for those types of repairs have changed, whereas the mechanical repair, electrical repair, the diagnosis is always changing very, very quickly. So the skill set, I think, in the mechanical repair and diagnosis, there's a higher demand on people to train and develop their skills, whereas the body shop side of things is once you've learned your trade, you've learned your trade. But really, it's getting the reward versus from the insurance companies.
Yeah,
they dictate prices.
Yeah. It's a unique market. Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. But yeah, I'm really interested to hear your perspective on that. The other interesting thing you said, and I think again, this is potentially faced by a lot of other business owners when you've taken on Site 2. And Site 2 is an existing garage, maybe with a reputation that's different than the one you want it to have. The cultural shift, or how do you swing, is it enough to put your brand above the door and then people know your brand and that sort of overcomes maybe the negative aura around that workshop? Or did you find that you had to do other things to maybe, if you kept, what question, did you keep any of the existing customers or did you bring new? And any of the existing customers you did bring, what was your journey like with them to get them to, your sort of unique quality relationship, value-based car fix proposition? Was that an interesting challenge?
Very, very interesting. Didn't quite simply put the sign above the door. Things changed dramatically. So there was a period where it was closed, that garage, where obviously we were doing the things we needed to get it open. We had some natural migration from our Hive site to our Several site because of the location.
Right.
So some of the existing customers moved across.
Yeah.
And then in the local area, really some direct marketing. It's on an industrial estate as well, so local business. It's a great location.
Right.
And then really just instill what we were doing, copy what we were doing at the Hive, and repeat it, and move a few key members of staff there because I felt they could grow into that side of the business and take on more responsibility. And just cross your fingers and hope that it was the right decision. I think having the brand established in the town was a massive help. Was a help,
yeah, good stuff. And then interesting then, so what sprung to my mind then was the systemisation maybe that you've got going on in your business. Did you find, I know a lot of garage owners that try to replicate the success at Site 1 when they get to Site 2 for a number of different reasons. It doesn't quite work so well. Would you have any tips for the guys listening about how do you lift your successful model, if you like, in Site A to Site B? Were there any learnings along that journey?
A lot of learnings, really. We had to change our garage management system.
Right. Okay. Big upheaval then.
Within about 6 months of opening, because we didn't have a multi-site garage management system.
Oh, okay.
And that could lead to a quote being given by one centre and a quote being given to another centre, and they were different.
Yeah. Yes.
But I think the ethos behind, once we changed the garage management system and we got the people in their relative places, really is lots of meetings, lots of communication and training to make sure that we were doing exactly the same at branch A as in the same way as we're doing it at branch B.
Right. Okay. That's really interesting. Yeah. That is interesting. Out of interest, did any of the staff or team members from the Site B, because it had closed down, I guess they'd gone, so you weren't transferring existing staff or team members? No, you were able to start from scratch. Great. And that's, again, is very interesting. So the garage management system question, you were running parallel systems in the two branches, so you had whichever variety of garage management system you had essentially two installs that weren't connected in a way, right? So, and that probably gave you that challenge. Is definitely, you mentioned on the quotation. How did you get on with reporting, and so the day-to-day sort of analysis of what was going on? Was that a bit of a challenge as well?
Between the two branches, yes. It was a massive challenge at the beginning. You had to kind of be a little bit more sympathetic to the fact that you weren't getting utilisation in the same way as you were getting in branch A as you were to branch B, because it was up and coming. I think once we had a garage management system that would allow us to access both sides and then directly record our labour sale and our parts sale and our margins and things like that side by side. And it was referring to the chassis number of the car rather than the customer, and then the registration, and they weren't getting mixed. Then the reporting system kind of, we were doing that at the Hive anyway, so we just had to transfer that model up there. Really.
Okay, yeah, to replicate that. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Yeah, the garage management system is obviously the eyes and ears of the business, and yeah, it's interesting to hear how you that was a big change. Did you find in the transition then from your single site garage management system to the multi-site, was that, so aside that was the key functionality you were looking for, was there much of so you've now got a new site, you've now got that populated with a new team, you've got two similar garage management systems, they're the same but they're not linking. How was the transition? Obviously you've had huge upheaval in adding the site. Was there much of a transition to the garage management system on top of now adding the site? How did that go down? Was that expected, unexpected, manageable?
I think I failed to, rather than just open a new username at a different site, having to change the system. And what we wanted the system to do was add transparency across both sites, so that if you logged onto a service check form, it was the same at both sites, for example.
Yeah.
But again, that was an additional upheaval because it created upheaval at site A.
Yes.
Because you've now changed your system to accommodate, site B. So I would say I really probably would have managed that differently and had the multi-site system in place before I opened the second branch.
Okay, yeah, and with hindsight, no, that's really interesting, because I think that for a lot of garages, they're either transitioning from a paper-based to a management system for one site, it's a big upheaval, and I'm just thinking then with the new site, the new operations going on, and then you've got to almost interrupt the successful business model of your flagship branch, if you like, the one that's working like a charm. Yeah, it's a very interesting consequence of the expansion. That's a shifting of something that's set and working. So again, a real big challenge. Yeah, good stuff. And how did you find? Did you obviously partnered with a provider? Did they have obviously experience of maybe other businesses making that? Were they good in contributing to how you could make that work? Do they have tips and hints about how you do the multi-site, or were you sort of finding your own way with that?
Finding my own way with that. I think it was on that journey when I first came to see you. I think it was about 2018 or 19. Right. So I was searching for the multi-site solution. Not sure if I should mention the name of the system I was using. So we were using a TechMan system that facilitated that, and we were using the KISS, keeping it simple system before, that doesn't share the multi-brand. But since then, we had a lot of success with the TechMan system, but we needed something else after that. It was a little bit more, it was a little bit quicker, gave us a bit more detail. So we've now moved over to the Garage Hive system.
Good stuff.
Now.
Oh, nice, interesting. So you've gone from one system to another system to multi-site, and then you've transitioned from multi-site system A to system B. How was that transition? So you'd got your TechMan working in the two sites. Was there a big change in processes or the way you did that then if you've moved both sites in a synchronized way? How did you find that second change away from your...
A lot easier, because we had the experience of making sure that we were prepared. It's relatively new in our business. It's helping our business, the Garage Hive system at the moment. But I made sure I kept the old system live, just in case, so, rather than just dropping it and then finding yourself with data gaps and unable to go through to the system. They're both great systems for different reasons. I feel the second transition, that's really in the last calendar year, was much, much easier.
Good stuff. No, that's really interesting. Yeah, that is really interesting. I was going to ask you about that redundancy, of the system data, because that if you're using the management system to its full effect, and it's giving you those accurate details about how the factory of repairing car works in the business, and also the reporting about your expenditure and income. It's a huge risk, isn't it? When you go to throw the lever, you could go blind for a period if system B doesn't work. So yeah, the parallel running sounds like a really interesting perspective on risk mitigation, really. So making that transition. Was there a bit of double entry then in the two systems just for the few days while you were transferring across? Or
we're still at a stage where we're double entering at the moment.
Okay.
We're getting a lot of data transferred from our garage management system to our accounting system.
Oh, yes.
Obviously, the other garage management system now, we're just using that as a backup of history
right.
to make sure that we're not we haven't lost any data.
Yes.
So we'll be interested in the months ahead of us. I suppose a big target for me in 2023 really is to see how we're going to, try and stop the double inputting and getting all of our expenses into one management system.
Yeah.
Making sure that is compliant, taxed digitally,
yes.
and all of those things are there. But we've got a nice window now, a comfort zone to go through and rehearse all of.
Yes. Yeah. Before you go for real. No, it's a really interesting thing. I think it's for me, running your business system is probably that. I think a lot of places are really fearful of making the change because they realize the impact and could be living with limitations in the system because of the fear of the transition, where there might be better things on the horizon. But, I think implementation and planning that is probably the key. So you don't go blind, or you don't lose your data, or the business can't refer, back in time. So yeah, it's really interesting to hear your journey on that, Mick. Yeah, really interesting. So Mick, really interesting what you've got to say so far. I've got a question I've written down here about finding out your thoughts on being a business owner and having employees.
Okay.
Bit of a big question, that one.
Yeah.
But maybe from the perspective of somebody that was either looking to get into business, or somebody that's in business, or your own personal perspective of what that means to you.
I think the business becomes, if you like, your baby in lots of ways. It's your DNA, what you believe in, and how and how you make sure that your beliefs aren't masked or swerved, just taken in the wrong direction, just because of customer demand or et cetera, et cetera. So being a business owner, it really gives you the opportunity to express yourself.
Yeah.
Tell people what you're about. It keeps you very, very busy, naturally, but it gives you that opportunity to express yourself. Having employees is fascinating, to be honest. I think the team we've got now, they all know what my passions are, what the business ethos is. Yes, customer service, all important. However, we can't serve all of the customers all of the time, and we can't sometimes serve customers that don't want to accept our offer of business. So, but most importantly, having employees is really engaging, and we are a family. I'm quite a family man myself. I treat everybody within the business as a special person within the business, from the apprentice all the way through to the managing director, if you like. So they're all as important. I have a saying that if you knock the apprentice, then you're going to be doing the apprentice work, because he's going to get a little bit upset and go somewhere else. So in the same way as if you want to be a manager, then you have to behave as a manager would behave.
Yes.
So I think it's great, to be honest with you. It is good. It has its frustrations naturally, but yeah, really enjoy it.
I really enjoy it. It's really interesting to hear that saying about expressing yourself as a business, because I suppose that because it's your business and it's your rules and it's your direction, the values that you came across there really was about your values as a person, and then really relating those to the business process of fixing cars. And yeah, you can have garage A that fixes a car and garage B that fixes a car, but it's more so than the mechanical repair process. I think what comes across there really is your passion about delivering that excellence in customer service and the values that you have got being reflected in that transaction and that relationship and that experience with the customer. Yeah, and then how does that work in terms of you? I suppose communicating that with a new team member. If we pick somebody new coming into the business that maybe come from another repairer, what's the journey like for that person? From where does it start with you thinking I suppose pre-selection really, let's say you've got a gap in your team. How does that sort of unfold then that you are getting the right bums on the right seats in your business and you don't end up with square pegs for the round hole that you've maybe got?
Yeah, really interesting. We've just recruited a great new member to our team who's been with us now 6 months or so, has really fitted in well. But that whole process really took quite a long time. So yes, we initially sent out a job advert, hoping that the right people would see that advert. And that's a skill in itself, because that's a big learning curve there, because you've got to make it attractive for these people to come in. But yes, we had lots of responses. We spoke to lots of people. Most knocked on the door and said, how much money are you offering?
Right.
It's not about the money we're offering. It's about the journey for you, the career for you, where you're at in your career. And our latest guy that's been recruited, really, I felt in love with the passion that we had for diagnostics, training, development of his career. He wasn't getting that where he was working. Right. So that was what attracted him to us. But realistically, that's what we're about. So there's no magic fix for that one. It's advertising the opportunity, and we're still advertising the opportunities that we offer, because if we get the right people back into the business, then yes, they'll benefit to us.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, and I think surveys are done all the time, but a recent survey cited the salary as number 2 or number 3, where it's important because obviously people coming into a job have to provide for their families, but it's maybe not. And really interesting to hear in that case that maybe it wasn't his primary goal. He was interested in that as a secondary factor. It has to work. But the drive for him to join you was the development and self-development, I suppose you could probably say. Yeah, the journey that he's going to go on. Yeah, interesting. And so was that the thing that really, so that's what attracted him to your opportunity. What really in return then attracted you to him as a candidate, as a potential team member?
So when we had our initial meetings, he was quite taken aback what we planned to offer him for a development journey. He's got some good experience. He's of a good age, sort of in his mid-20s, so he's experienced a lot. So I think for him, we were the right fix for his career, so he could move on. And for us, he had the enthusiasm and sold himself to us, and proved that in the last 6 months he's worked for us. And we're now planning on sending him off for his MOT training, which is ticking a box really, but then get him on a diagnostic journey as well, like we had with the other members of the team. Ideal, lovely. What would you say then, Mick, to there's a lot of conversations go on about technician shortage, and undoubtedly there is a shortage, but do you think people that are maybe not able to find employees, it's not so much about just the fact there's a gap, it's about aligning the gap to the person? There are lots of people out there, but they're not just looking for a job. You've got to decide as an employer where you want to go with that person, because ultimately that person is going to, give up parts of his career to work with you or work for you. So I think we've got to stop trying to put a plaster on the problem, inflate wages just to bring in another person to do a job. We've got to look at really sort of making sure we seal it and deal with the bigger problem, which is, hey, look, we're employed to fix cars and keep people on the road safely.
Yeah.
It's not a quick fix. It's a long time. It's a long journey, and it's a development journey. And if you get people on board and they understand what you're trying to achieve, they grow.
Yes.
In themselves.
Yeah. And then stretch to perform in your vision of fixing cars. So yeah. What in terms of the sort of the conversations, is it when, with that team member coming in, the conversations are about, quality over cost, the sort of personal values, so honesty and integrity. These are open and conversations that you're having in the sort of pre-interview stage. You're painting your vision to them of those values that you hold dear, and that's either a selection or deselection on their behalf. So they'll maybe understand that that's not actually what I'm looking for. Exactly. Yeah, so you're pre-qualifying based on you selling the vision, and the journey. And if those two things match, then you'll find.
Yeah, and everybody in the business knows what those, what that vision is, and what we're investing. There's the monetary investment is one thing, but the investment in time is a completely different thing.
Yeah.
And time isn't just my time. It's the company's time, their time sometimes, for their future.
Yeah.
It's a long journey. I've been here for 30 odd years now fixing cars, so it's a long journey.
Yeah. Oh no, really interesting. No, that is really interesting. What's your view? We touched on it there. You mentioned the word apprentice. How do you find that journey? So if we look at gaps that maybe exist in the business, so you've got the work, you've got the volume of business that you need a skilled technician, and therefore you have to try and find that skilled person to come in that supports your values, that supports the values of your business, that will perform to a standard that enables that to work. So financially for them and financially for you, that bit is taken care of. So the filling of the gaps with the skill tech is one thing. And I think that's where a lot of garages that have got gaps are struggling to go to the market to find a performer. If we think about that on a more strategic level, and so we say, okay, maybe you want to grow your business, and your business is growing naturally because of the good things you're doing. What's your view about the strategy on employing apprentices? So where does that fit into maybe the work mix of your business? Where does the apprentice model fit in?
Apprenticeships, they said a little more difficult to sell a dream to an apprentice because he's just left school or college and he's out and working.
Yes.
So it's harder to select apprentices. I think if you look at our business model, we've got apprentices still with the business 33 years on.
Excellent. Amazing. Wow.
I've got apprentices that I go, started with me as apprentices that I go on training courses with, and they hold management positions as well. So I think what you have to do is accept that it's not going to be a first fit solution every time.
Right.
You have to sort of say to yourself, well, look, I'm gambling a little bit on this one.
Yeah.
I've only got 4 aces in the pack. I'm not going to pull all of those out at the same time. So there's 52 cards. It's going to take a little while to find the right person. And you have to be patient with them as well.
Yeah.
Really, really patient.
Yeah.
And you have to treat them with respect.
Yes.
It's really, really important.
Really important. Yeah. No, that's it. And so you've had particular success with growing, homegrown talent for over a long period of time. And part of that success would be, bringing them on a journey and not expecting performance. So sometimes you get the feeling, if you hear of other apprentice tales when they don't go so well, maybe are down to the host business or garage expecting productivity from the young person maybe too soon. The mentoring that needs to go on maybe isn't there, that they're expected to be able to do job X, Y, and Z, and they can't, and they have a failure, and that doesn't go well. And then the apprentice is on a bit of a downer because, there's been a mistake made at work. So it's really interesting to hear your philosophy then about growing that young person who maybe is a bit directionless, doesn't really know what they want to do, doesn't know what they don't know in those terms. Yeah. And it's an amazing testament to your, skill and investment that you've got those guys with the business all those years later. And that shows that, an undying commitment on both parties, really, that they're still with you and you're still with them.
Yeah.
So amazing. Yeah.
We've got 2 working at the moment. They're working quite well. And I think, we've improved what we've done over the years. So we've made some mistakes, and as you said, expecting productivity from somebody that you don't just wake up one morning knowing how to do this job.
No, it's tricky. No, good stuff. No, thanks for that. That's really interesting to hear. What can you tell me then about? I know you're a family business, and what can you tell me about the pros and cons of having family members in your business? As you know, we have family members that work here. What would you tell me about the pros and cons of working? What could be, maybe not, we could say no names, no patrils. What are the pros and cons, do you think?
Family in the business. Well, I think it's a massive advantage. We employ 20 people. We've got myself and my son, who's apprentice year 3 at the moment, working full time in the business. My dad was in the business, doesn't work in the business now. My wife helps in the business, but sort of not directly on a day-to-day basis working with me personally. I think, yes, you've got that trust element with family. It's massive. You create that. I like to have that feeling that I've got that trusted element with everybody within the business.
Yes.
And you have to treat everybody the same. Yeah. You can't suddenly be, my son gets more holiday than you do. No. There's a line there which can't be compromised. But I think if you've got that family ethos, you've got that anyway. And I do look at the whole business as being one big family, to be honest with you.
Oh, that's really interesting. So there isn't really that demarcation zone that you're all working in, family members and non-family members are essentially the bigger family that is Shaikly Motors. Yes. Yeah. Oh, good stuff.
I can't say, hey, other people are going to have different experiences on that one. It's all about personalities, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. One of the things that, how do you handle this? One of the things that we sometimes struggle with as a family unit running this business is the demarcation zone of being at home. How do you, and I'll share some stories in a sec, but how do you manage that not talking shop at home? Does that present a challenge to you? Have you got that under control?
It definitely has been a challenge. You just have to put the red line up and just say, right, that's for Monday. Yeah, it's Friday, and we got to park that right now, and it is a difficult one. Yeah. But you learn how to do it because it's not healthy to be talking shop on a Sunday afternoon when you're having you're out for your Sunday roast or whatever. Yeah. So you have to do that, and but you also have to make sure as well that as the business owner or the leader within the business, like yourself, that your expectations of these people, of your family members and staff as well, are not too high.
Yes.
You've got to say, no, enough is enough. Yeah. Family's more important.
Yeah.
And move forward from there.
Oh, it's really interesting. Yeah. And that's one of the things I find myself probably over-focusing on that. And I will call those conversations to a stop and sort of say at home maybe it's over the table at the kitchen table at breakfast. That's now it's not work time yet. We're just sort of having breakfast. Work time is in an hour or two when we all come back in here to work. So yeah, I'd agree. I tend to focus on probably, and also in the nicest way, with throwing the guys out of here, go home to your families. They need your time. So that again is a big focus for me, because it is the passion that if you build a good team with great team members, they're uber passionate about your business, which is also your passion. And I found having that almost being really focused on saying enough now. We've done a brilliant job today, and it's all been done. Go home to see your families. Yeah. And I find as much as I I have a sort of a pride in the team that has to be said. Come on, guys, enough now. This is enough of work. Go home. Yeah. And so getting that positive feeling that the contribution that they're making here is actually, they're not wanting to run out of the door at 5 o'clock, but also being focused that actually, as you said, the demands are not too high.
And it's a little difficult one because we've got 2 branches. People might have been working in different areas, and you catch up in the evening or over the weekend. You say, "How was your week? How was your day?"
Yeah,
you've got to kind of turn around and say, "Well, I'll ask you about work at work. I'm not asking you about what you fixed today or what happened with XYZ today at work. I'm just you've got to shut the door and move forward.
Yeah. We have a cup of tea time, so when I get back in, I put the kettle on, have a quick brew, and then during that time when I'm supping the tea, it's okay to do the "How was your day?" and this thing happened, and it creeps into Fred and Joe had this conversation and this happened. But when the tea is done, the cup of tea, that 5-10 minutes is the decompression, and then it's absolutely off the agenda. So it's really interesting to hear that. You're not working together, but there's a common aim. But being able to stop work at home,
I certainly don't want a business meeting when you clean your teeth.
No. No, it's really interesting. One of the other questions I was going to ask you is, you've had some success recently with some of the premier garage competitions, and I know you're one to hide your light under a bushel ever so slightly, but you did win 2 of them, or the major competitions, Garages of the Year and the Top Garage. That's really interesting from an external perspective, that you've been recognised by industry peers, independent validation, verification. You've had visitations and assessments done. It's obviously a reflection of what the trade and the industry think about what you're doing. Internally, then, if we said, well, how do you award yourself Garage of the Year? What metrics and measures do you have as internal measures that you're successful? So the external plaudits are brilliant, and when they come and they land, you must be over the moon. But what sort of measures have you got of the internal success of the business? So without the external plaudits, how do you know it's all going well? And also tacking on then what those awards meant to you, how you've used them, what advantage that's given you.
Yeah, I think initially the mindset of, shall we go and apply, which is an application in the first instance, a questionnaire. You'll think about it 1 year and you'll think, I'm not quite ready yet. But you've got to, you kind of, once you've got your business is running successfully and your staff are happy and you're growing that team and growing those careers and growing opportunities for the team, that has a positive impact on the customer service and the customer experience. It's very great to have great customer service, but if the car goes in and it doesn't get fixed and it comes out broken still, it went in broken and it came out broken, that's never going to work. So you've got to really concentrate on the training levels and the expertise of your staff inside the workshop. And then you suddenly find yourself, well, hold on a minute, we're getting some good success. We've got on board with some good training. And that's a journey in itself, finding the right provider for what you want. Yeah. You've got all these pieces in place. And then you think, I personally felt, I need to give these guys, the accolade of the efforts they're putting in. And then you sort of say, we're going to go for this. And then you get their input and everybody starts to up their game a little bit. Right. We're going to go for this award. So therefore, we need to be, maybe we could trim a bit of time here or make that experience slightly better or listen to all those things. And then, wait and see what happens really. Yes. So the IGA journey was a great journey and the Top Garage was a great journey, but kind of gets you thinking, I want to be the best.
Right.
So I'm going to have to re-audit myself with my internal processes because if I want to be the best, I've got to make sure we're doing the right things at the right time.
Yeah. So it gave you a bit of a stretch target. So although your business was successful and you were doing really well and you'd sort of happy, you'd met your own internal goals and the business is turning a profit and the guys are happy, the competition added that extra element, did it, of you a bit of stretch then. So thinking slightly differently and trying to achieve a higher level. There's a little bit of a focus, do you think?
Yes. It gives you some great exposure about what you're about, and obviously, some great customer feedback and some well done from customers and the team as well. I think it stretches you, it challenges you to be, I wouldn't say to improve. It's very easy to be better, yes. But what is better? It's just to improve all of the time.
Right.
And build on the relationship you've got with the staff and with customers. And it's great to have people look at your business and go, wow, you're doing that. Having our internal training sessions, having our Saturday training mornings,
yes.
Having a dedicated space to do that training and those sort of things. I'm upskilling the people in the business, and the training is upskilling myself. So, that's all positive.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and did so I know you've used that in some of your outbound marketing. So where you're using that as as a sort of signifier to your customers that you've won this. Have you found the responses? What are your customers saying, or those that notice? Has it made a difference?
You get the big pat on the backs, which is so nice. Yeah. Customers turning around and saying, never in doubt, you're always going to win it, and those types of things, which is great because they're the customers that you want. They're the customers that, that unconsciously support your business just by, being great customers every year.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what brand of car they're driving or their son's driving or their daughter's driving it. They're coming to you for advice. And year on, year out, I think it qualifies you when the customer walks through the door, where they are now looking for the quality repair, the quality garage, and the guy that's looking for the cheap, quick fix. And can't you use a cheaper bit here, there, or everywhere? Say, hold on a minute, no, we don't do that because we've got a reputation to uphold.
Yeah, you're not going to garage for the year looking for a cheap job, are you? Let's be honest. That's probably not your primary selection criteria. No. And that's really interesting. So we can use that. You're using that as a sort of external validation that you're doing a brilliant job.
Yeah, quality service, quality parts. Yeah,
great stuff. Having been through the process, and obviously you've been successful, would you recommend that journey of sort of entering those type of competitions to other garages? Are there some things that are useful, even if you didn't win? There are some benefits, do you think?
Getting on board the process is a positive thing, even if you don't get through the first part of that process, because you're now starting to look at your business.
Yeah,
you're selling your business to sell something. You've got to look at what you're selling.
Yeah.
And you're, selling, you're showing your business.
Selling it to the judges and the competition. You're sort of going, this is me, this is us. And by virtue of that, it's getting you thinking about.
Yeah. So you will. And I'd support really everybody that's trying to achieve a high quality business, and they're looking to improve on a daily basis. That those types of competitions are good things.
Yeah,
really good things.
Yeah, driving the standard up. I'd agree. I think my involvement with some of those competitions, you see from people that are entering, that really just the focus. I think sometimes from an internal focus to an external focus of what people are looking for, get you by virtue of that going, are we doing this correctly? Are we the best in this direction? And maybe are we doing this the best way we could? So I think it probably, I'd agree. It's a focus thing.
Yeah, and it's not about having a shiny sign outside the door either.
No.
It's about what's inside the business.
Yeah.
And having a passion. The passion was, it's the whole thing, isn't it? It's pushing your brand, your quality, your ethos in the right direction.
Yes.
And if you're doing it right, then you'll naturally do well in those. Whoever is doing the same things out there, get on board and have a go.
Yeah, and have a go. Great stuff. And how did it go down with the teams? Obviously, the team are a big part of the business. And what was their feedback about the experience? And then, obviously, when you were successful, did it have really positive?
The team won it.
Yes.
For the business.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
no doubt that I fortunately went up to pick up the award.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the team it was great. It's just that little thing. We've been awarded Garage of the Year, so we're doing the right thing. The team won it, and the team are actually stronger on the back of it as well.
Yeah.
So
validation that their efforts, have been recognised externally. Yeah, it's good, really amazing. Oh, good stuff. Okay, so I've got a question here for you, Mick, about the best advice that you've ever received. So in your business career, there's often the golden nuggets that sort of stick with you. Have you got something you'd like to share about the best advice you've ever received?
Received lots of good advice, and I fortunately, I'm in a position now to go out and listen to some inspiring people. One of the best bits of advice I've ever had was from my older brother, who's a successful businessman as well, and he said, in life and in business, if people don't make you feel comfortable about yourself, then distance yourself from them. And it's very true, because sometimes in business, people can, make you question yourself or feel uncomfortable. Employees, customers, everybody really. Yeah. So if you've got your passion and your beliefs, stick by them. So that's a great piece of advice, that I've always thought about and move forward with.
Yeah, and it's fantastic, isn't it? I'm sure that's giving you the confidence that I suppose is a sentiment that you're all pulling in the same direction and that you're all sharing in that vision. So that's a succinct way of saying quite a lot of deep stuff. That I like that. That's really cool.
It's a difficult one to explain, and when you first hear it, you think, wow, what did that mean? But it's true. It could be so many examples of that where you've got somebody that's salespeople, and you're feeling uncomfortable about what he's trying to sell you.
Yes.
Hold on, I'm uncomfortable now. I got that advice. If you're not comfortable, walk away. That type of thing. And lots of things that we do, jobs that we do, that we take on. Is that customer right for us?
Yeah.
Is that bit of advice making me feel, or that diagnosis making me feel uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Or, hold on a minute, I've got to go and search that for myself. And
be sure that you're comfortable. Yeah, that's right. I think there's a bit about that for gut feel, isn't there? Your gut feel is that unfocused feeling that either gives you the thumbs up or the thumbs down. So that's really interesting. So I really thanks for sharing.
That's really a different one. I think that one.
But really good. I can see there's some huge benefits. I think that is sage advice indeed. Cool. In terms of futurescape, so what does the sort of future look like? So if we were to pin an open calendar for the next 5 years about the direction of travel that you're looking to take your business on, could you share thoughts about where you think that you're heading as a company?
We haven't stopped in trying to push the quality of what we do. I really, really want to focus on the training and development of the people within the business, as I can encourage them to grow and allow them to have the opportunities to grow and the tools to grow with. The business will just follow suit. I'm 100% sure on that. I wouldn't say that I've stopped growing in size, in employment numbers. I'm not really too worried about getting too much bigger too quickly. Yeah. I never have been. It's organic, it's natural. Yeah. So I think really we want to be looking and focusing on making sure that we're following technology very, very closely. We've closed that gap up massively in the last 3 or 4 years with training with yourself and looking at how we can train internally. So we want to make sure that in the future we're very, very close to the new developments, automotive developments. And yes, we've spoken about hydrogen and stuff like that, which is really, really interesting. Making sure that we don't drift away from that curve, that technology, line that's always getting steeper and steeper.
Keeping pace, yeah.
And looking at improvements, maybe, trying to repeat IGA Garage of the Year and Top Garage again. Fantastic. Again, so that's going to be another challenge. But we've got to stay focused on that because it's been so beneficial for our business.
Yes. Yeah. No, good stuff. More of the same. Yeah. No, really quite cool. Yeah. Well, I wish you luck on that journey. With the competitions, they are, I think hugely beneficial. If we were going to talk about the challenges then, so there's your view about the future for your business. What do you think the challenges are maybe for the wider industry in the next sort of 3 to 5 years? What challenges will other garages and yourself face that maybe some are obvious or unobvious? What do you think that sort of future scape looks like for garages?
I think a lot of things that we can do about certain challenges. So, for example, as technology changes, it doesn't necessarily get more difficult. It just changes. We can make a positive impact, can't we? We can get on some training courses and we can do some learning and keep up to speed with that. I think the industry in general, for independent garages, if I'm talking about independent garages, which is really all I know about, is not to be scared of the price wars that are out there at the moment. We see it with our fast fits and sometimes our dealers, and they're throwing loss leaders into customers. Do we really need to do that? They possibly do.
Yeah.
Because they're in competition with each other. Are we in competition with them with what we do? No, we're not.
No.
100% we're not. There's some really, really good independent garages out there. Some really, really good ones. Don't get focused into that price war of cheap MOTs and loss leaders. Cheap servicing. There's no future in that.
No.
And I feel like that could be a challenge for a lot of independent garages who are thinking, I've got to only charge £45 an hour or £50 an hour, whatever it is, because round the corner they're charging 55, so I've got to be 50 to win the work. No, concentrate on quality and expertise and the work will come.
The work will come, that's it. It's that old saying, isn't it? With a race to the bottom, the only winner is the cheapest, and they might be the only one left also, because if there's no profit, there's no margin, there's no way to reinvest. You're strangling a business, aren't you? If your primary strategy is price only, it can't lead to investment in training, it can't lead to investment in tools and equipment, it can't lead to the improvement in a business. A cheap garage business maybe is never going to be a good garage business because they don't have the profits to fund what's required to make it so.
And what is cheap? Where do we put that value?
Absolutely.
So are we cheap if we're £200 an hour because somebody around the corner is charging £300 an hour? Or are we cheap because somebody's charging £20 an hour? Because someone around the corner is charging 30. It's
a brilliant point. Where is the price point? Where is the measurement? And some of that is hidden, isn't it, in subtlety of what your customer thinks is good value, never mind, just the price. And I know a lot of people feel uncomfortable when they're talking about price or the customer's asking how much for. I suppose you've got to understand the reason. What are they actually asking about? Is it about the value? Do they worry about the price of a litre of oil or an hour's labour, or are they more focused on the fact that this car will not let them down? Their focus proposition or the value is reliability at all costs. Not all costs, but at a reasonable cost. They're not worried about the cheapness. And I think, it's an interesting challenge. A lot of garages are focused on price and not value. And they're very, two different things. Again, subtlety, like your advice the brother gave, that sounds like it's the same thing to some. But when you dig into price and value, obviously they're very different things. Very interesting. So try and avoid the price wars, because obviously with the economic climate changing, price becomes an issue. But and I like your other then point about the technology. So keeping pace with technology is the other thing, isn't it? And that really can only come from self-development and some training and learning and understanding trends. No, thanks for that. Okay, so a couple of final thoughts then. If you could, what were your 3 tips for maybe a budding technician? He's maybe mid-20s, he's in a garage, he's looking to go out on his own. What 3 bits of advice would you give to that chap or chap or lady or girl who wanted to start their own garage business? What would you reckon? What would be 3 things, pretty sage points that you would give them to ensure that they set off on the right footing?
I think make sure you've got a business plan in place, and what you want to set out to achieve. I think, to be honest, you shouldn't be looking around the corner at what other people are charging. You've got to make sure that you understand what you want to achieve from the business itself.
Yeah, so that probably links to the plan a bit, doesn't it? So make sure your numbers stack up. Your cost of doing business based on what the thing you're trying to set up really should dictate your end price point. Yeah, not comparison.
And really how you're going to apply yourself once you're out there, because you're going to have investment in kit and insurance and in training. Because one of the mistakes I made sort of midway through the development of Shaikly Motor Company in the last, sort of 20 plus years that I've been running it, is that you can very, very quickly just concentrate on one area of the business. And for example, that gap between how technology develops and how you can deal with it, it's very easy for you to be, concentrating on making sure the reception's clean and the gas is paid and all of the all of the painting's done outside, and then suddenly you look around and you think, well, gee, I don't even know how that works. So it's an interesting one. I would just get that plan in place and make sure that you're prepared for some, that you're going to have some ups and downs, but you've got to take that whole journey, make sure that you don't lose track of what cars are doing.
Yes, yeah. So busy running the business that you can lose a focus on the way the market's shifted. Yeah, that's really interesting.
And that's what we're paid to do, isn't it? Fix cars.
Fix the cars. Fix the cars. So final question, and this is a bit of it gives you carte blanche. So if you had a magic wand and can change 2 things in our industry for the better, what would those 2 things be that you could snap your fingers, wave the wand, and they would be different tomorrow? That would make a big difference.
Can I be honest?
Yeah, absolutely.
Get rid of fast fits
straight
away, and those people that are racing to the bottom. Because realistically, from an independent garage owner's point of view, we know they can't offer what we do, and the customer's sometimes led into believing that we all do the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's just an MOT or it's just another repair.
Yeah.
And an education, really, an opportunity to educate the car owners, the car drivers, the people that own these things, how complicated they are, and how to make sure that the good guys out there that are fixing it are being rewarded, and not just financially, but rewarded and respected.
Yes,
for what they do.
Yeah. So that old, it does. Yeah, absolutely. So the car owners generally maybe don't have an appreciation of the complex nature of the machine they're driving, with cameras and radars and multiple computers. Yeah, and therefore the price they think they should be paying to have that complex machine serviced is often, not seen. So they're expecting, it's like their old Ford Fiesta was with valve adjustments, and now they're driving a multi-valve, electronically controlled automatic transmission, self-driving car, and obviously the resources from a garage like yourself that has to offer to fix that is different. So no, I get that. Customer education is a brilliant answer. Yeah, love it. Mick, it's been delightful. Thanks ever so much for your time. We've come to the end of our chat, and I found it very useful, very interesting. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and ideas and comments, and I wish you well and success for the future.
Thank you very much, and thank you.
Cheers.